Welcome, my name is Josh, and today I'm going to be talking about the Sennheiser Profile, what I think is the best USB microphone in its class. And in this video, I want to go through not only its details and specs and how it sounds, but why it might be right for you. Let's get started. The first thing I want to clarify before I begin this review is that Sennheiser has not paid me to make this video in any way. I'm not compensated at all, and I've offered to send the product back when I'm done. The only reason I'm making this video is because I want to share a great product with my audience in case you're in the market for something similar. So with that out of the way, now I can start talking about the product. First off, there are two different versions of this microphone. There's the mic itself that you can buy for $130 USD, which comes with a base to go onto your desk. This tilts back and you can use it for Zoom calls, podcasting, whatever. And then there's a second version that you can buy, which comes with this great boom arm. I have owned and used quite a few boom arms, and in fact, in my closet, I have 5 or 6 of them laying around somewhere. And of all of them, I think this is the best quality. It's all metal. It's kind of shockingly heavy duty. As you can see, you really have to put some muscle into pulling it out, so it can hold some really heavy microphones. And I just think that they did an amazing job on the machining and manufacturing of these. I don't think I've ever seen a kit product that comes with this high quality of hardware. It's got an air casing, so this whole joint here, it's not actually a screw joint, but rather it's held together with suction. I just realized that's a really satisfying noise too. That's fantastic. Anyways, so I was really surprised that for something that kind of comes as a package, you would think it's a cheap kit. It's only $200 for the mic and the streaming setup, including the longer cable as well as the boom arm. But if you do just want this and you already have a microphone, you don't really need it, but you're looking for a better boom arm, definitely recommend this. You can get it from Sennheiser's website for $100 USD. In terms of the microphone itself, one of the things I was really surprised about is how heavy the package was. As soon as I took this mic out of the package, I was shocked. It's like a little gold brick. It's very heavy for what it is, and it just feels impressive. All of the machining on it is perfect, and just every little piece fits together perfectly. You don't normally see this level and quality of manufacturing in something so cheap. For $130 for the microphone, I really do think the build quality is way better than it has any need to be. This microphone has a mesh with a pop filter built in underneath that mesh. Now, interestingly enough, this is something you normally see on broadcast microphones. And in my testing, they actually did a really good job with that mesh. It's not so thick and dense to where the microphone becomes dark sounding, but it's not so thin that you get plosives and nasty sibilants. So they really did a good job with the mesh inside. Underneath that is the actual capsule, which is a large diaphragm condenser with a cardioid polar pattern. Now, one thing I found about this microphone is that it's a very bright microphone. It's clearly tailored for the human voice to cut through the busy mixes of, say, if you're streaming a loud video game, or maybe if you have a podcast where there's 5 people talking over each other. Now, the thing I really appreciate about it being pre-tailored to voice like this is that not everybody wants to buy an expensive microphone and have to deal with setting it up for their voice. A lot of people just want to buy a microphone, plug it into their computer, and start recording right away. Now, because this is a USB microphone, it does exactly that. You don't actually need a preamp with this mic. You don't even need an interface or an ADDA. Everything that you need is already built into the mic itself, which is probably in part why it's so heavy. It's got all of the electronics in it already. Now, as you'll see on the back, there's a USB-C port. The great part about one of these USB plug-and-play microphones is that as soon as you plug it in into either a Windows or a Mac computer, not only is it recognized immediately in the operating system, but basically every software I tested with it, it was just recognized in the software natively right away. I didn't have to go through any special hoops in order to get it to work in my DAW or any other software that I was using. It worked in Teams, Skype, and Twitch right away. And I think a lot of people are just kind of sick of everything having become so hyper complicated, especially if you're not really a technical person. You just want to quickly plug your microphone in, record some vocals in your DAW, or maybe you want to do a quick podcast. Or for a lot of people, you're a gamer and you're streaming to Twitch and don't want to deal with the technical problems that using a traditional interface causes for so many people. Now, I have had a problem in the past with USB microphones in that many of them just have not been very good quality. But I think this is the first one that I've used and tested where I actually went, oh wow, that actually sounds like a professional broadcast grade microphone. And towards the end of this video, I'm gonna give you an actual audio test of me using this microphone, just so you kind of have a good idea of what it sounds like. Until then, let's go through some of the features of this mic. Here at the top of the microphone, you have a very soft touch, no noise mute button. So as soon as you press that, the microphone is gonna mute itself and you don't have to worry about jumping through software trying to find a mute button, since they put it right there on the microphone. As soon as you press that, both of the LED lights on the microphone turn red to let you know you're muted and that there's no sound coming through to your audience. Now below that, we have a gain or volume knob. Now what this does is it changes and sets the gain for your voice as if you're gain staging. So the important thing here is just to set it right until you see the LED around it turning yellow when you're talking. As soon as you see yellow, that means you're clipping and you wanna turn it down just a little bit. You just wanna see a green light flashing, and that's how you know you're getting a good, clean, hot audio level, but without clipping. And the great thing about the gain knob having the LED right around it is that as you're talking, you can see that light flashing in your face and you know exactly how hot your mic always is when you're facing it. You never have to worry about clipping on accident because there's some screen somewhere that you can't see. Now below that, we have the mix control knob. Now I think mix control confuses a lot of people, but the idea is really simple. If you turn it all the way to the left, you're actually going to be hearing straight from the ADDA in the microphone going out to the 3.5mm jack to your headphones on the back of the mic. Now, if we turn that the other direction, all the way to the right, we're actually going to be hearing straight from the computer. Now, this is actually an underrated feature because when you're monitoring straight from the microphone into your headphones, you're actually able to hear your own audio, your own voice, with no latency whatsoever. When you switch it to the computer mode, you will probably hear some latency, but that's kind of a nice feature as well because sometimes you want to be able to hear the compression or effects that you're using and you don't want to hear direct monitoring from the mic. I just think it's a nice little feature they added and it's useful to have, but for most people, you're just gonna set that to the middle position. Now the bottom knob here is just a volume control for the headphone amp that's inside of the microphone. The headphone amp is actually quite powerful. Even when using really high impedance headphones, I was able to crank this up and get a pretty loud sound out of it. So that's a very useful feature for somebody out there that wants to do live monitoring while they're streaming or recording. Now, in terms of recording options for the built-in digital to analog converter, it can do 44.1 kilohertz, or it can even do 48 kilohertz. Now, I think that was really smart of Sennheiser to give you those options because some people are gonna be using this for streaming and video. And as we all know, for video, your standard sample resolution is actually 48 kilohertz. But for audio, or if you're just doing podcasts, it's actually 44.1 kilohertz. So it's really nice that they give you that option built into the mic's ADDA. Now, in terms of sound quality, you can look at graphs all day long, but they never really tell you what something sounds like until you test it. So without me just talking about the audio specs anymore, let's do an actual audio test and see what it sounds like. All right, so now you can hear exactly what this microphone sounds like in a real world scenario. One thing I found is that it's a very bright, open sounding microphone, but luckily it's not too harsh or sibilant, which is often something that bright microphones kind of suffer from. Sennheiser obviously did a very good job of balancing the natural tone of the capsule with the EQ that's built in onto the preamp that they're using. I'm trying to imagine this mic in a setting where you have a podcast, where you've got 5 or 6 people talking over each other. Something nice and bright and clean like this will prevent that mix from getting muddied up really quickly, and I just feel it'll do a really good job in a scenario like that. Or another good example would be if you're playing video games and you're streaming live on Twitch, and you've got your audio from your video game streaming live onto the Twitch stereo out that most people are listening to. A lot of Twitch streamers have trouble balancing those volumes while also keeping their voice prominent. And you see so many of them using these really dark broadcast mics, and you can barely hear their voice over all the noise of the game. Something like this really is gonna help dialogue stand out in a busy mix, cut through all that noise so your viewers can understand what you're saying. Another thing I really like about the streaming set is not only is it black, so it kind of stays out of the way. You can see it here in the frame right now, obviously, but it's not obnoxious in any way. There's no bright, annoying colors. They put the LEDs on the side facing me, so of course my viewers don't have to see the lights flashing. And more than anything, I just think it's a good looking setup. And having this great option for cable management around the backside really is helpful for just making sure your setup looks clean, stays clean, and it stays out of your way. As you'll see, I can use my full range of motion. There's no stand or anything in the way. I'm not accidentally bumping into it when I'm talking, or let's say if I'm gaming, sometimes people get kind of aggressive during gaming. You don't really want something in the way for that. So yeah, just being able to boom it overhead, kind of keep it out of my way. I just think that that's the best way to record audio if you're a Twitch streamer or a podcaster. And there's a reason why the market for audio streaming setups that are just kind of all in one like this is so big and growing so fast. And it's because a lot of people just can't be bothered to try to buy all these parts independently and make sure they all fit. With the Profile, you know what you're getting, you know what you're buying. It's all gonna fit together perfectly, and the quality of the manufacturing is great. Not to mention you're gonna get good quality sounding audio. Now that concludes my audio test. Let Sennheiser know in a comment down below what you think about how this microphone looks, and most importantly, how it sounds. So as you could hear from that test, not only is this microphone super well built, but it actually sounds pretty good. And for a lot of people out there looking for a microphone, this might be a really good choice. Which I guess leads me to the question, who is this mic for? Well, on the front of the packaging of the microphone, it says it's for streamers and podcasters. And I think Sennheiser really nailed that. That's definitely what the actual capsule is tailored for. But I do think this might actually work for somebody that's doing mobile hip hop. So let's say you have an RV or you have a tour bus and you're traveling all around the country. You might not necessarily want to drag super expensive cables and heavy gear and preamps and interfaces everywhere you go. You might just want to be able to set something like this up in front of you. And I do think that this is actually a pretty good sounding microphone for music. Now it is pretty EQ'd sounding internally, which some people might not want for something like miking acoustic guitar or guitar cabs. But for the human voice, I think it sounds pretty good, and it would definitely stand out in a loud and busy mix. With all of that said though, the best application for this mic is definitely going to be people that don't want to have to deal with super expensive heavy equipment. They're doing things mobily, or they just want to plug this in and start recording right away for something like streaming on the internet on Twitch or on YouTube. The convenience of having a microphone where there's basically one knob that you're adjusting for your gain is probably going to be a great choice for anybody that's not necessarily tech savvy or can't be bothered to worry about it. I can definitely in good conscience recommend this to anybody in the market for a USB microphone. So if you liked this microphone or you liked my review on it, don't forget to like and subscribe down below for more content and reviews like this coming soon. See you on the next one.